Hey there. Today we're going to do a little Illustrator lesson making two different um, kind of color wheels for the same plant, two different aesthetics. So um, we'll start by selecting a plant. Um, Last assignment, I picked the Oregon oak. So I'll pick my second favorite Oregon plant and I'll pick the vine maple. And let's see. I'm looking for seasonal colors and kind of like the colors that I want people to notice from the vine maple. So it doesn't have to be the whole color, but that pop. So like this kind of watermelon pink, something that reminds me a lot of the vine maple. New folder quick. Sweet. Perfect. And then this wet green. Um, and then in the spring, they always have beautiful red buds. Yeah, like this. And then finally, one of my favorite things about the vine maple is that beautiful green bark. Um, I feel like that's a really great kind of like winter um, aesthetic. So I'll save this image. So we have all four seasons, summer, winter, spring, fall. But I want to get a picture of the leaf and kind of like the best image that kind of shows the leaf by itself. Um, that one's kind of wacky, but that could work. Any of these could work. Um, but I'm gonna pick this one. It's kind of a middle ground. It's almost perfectly isolated, but we still have this little logo in the bottom corner, which I can show you how to remove. So we're gonna save it. Perfect. And then open our Illustrator, create a new file. Make sure that's 11 by 17, horizontal. We're going to save right away. Shift Control S, say Shift Control S. Oh, easier to use up here. Shift Control S, I see. Save as, save on your computer. So you'll notice now in this bottom right hand corner, I might have to move it once in a while, but I have a keyboard now that'll show you what hotkeys I use. And um, I think that's what to be watching for. Okay, so we have a few things we want to bring into our Adobe Illustrator. So I'm gonna bring in the hotkey cheat sheet, drop that in, and then drop in the fall color. The size, we're gonna shrink it um, because we just need the color. We don't need anything else from the image. You can see if we click in the properties panel that this image is 26 inches wide. I'm going to change that to 5, make that a nice manageable size. Same with this one. And this one. Perfect. Okay, so our hotkey cheat sheet, we're going to lock it, Control 2. We don't have to um, lock our other ones, although we will, let's hide our individual leaf shape, Control 3. So when we're scaling these, you'll notice you can distort them. Because we want just the colors, it doesn't matter that much if we distort things. But so if you want to if you want to preserve the scale and the ratio of the image, you hit Shift while you scale things. You just click and drag from the control point. Okay, so now that we have our images, we want to kind of extract a color palette from these images. So we're going to hit I, which is the eyedropper tool. And you can see in this left side the different colors that are coming out of the images that we're selecting. To me, this darker green kind of speaks to the vine maple in the summer. So I'm going to go to this fill on the right side, this plus sign, new swatch. I'm going to rename it vine maple summer. Save it to my themes. And this is all from my practice. Delete those quick. Okay, so there's vine maple summer. We're going to do the same thing with all the other colors. Another way to do this is to click this plus sign, add element. We want to add that fill color, but you'll notice it doesn't have a name. So if we right click on that color, we can rename that. Okay. And then we're going to click that nice bright red that comes from the buds. Honestly, it looks a lot like the fall color. It's okay. Perfect. Okay. So we have our 4 colors, which means we don't need these images anymore. We can hit V to get our kind of selection cursor. Perfect. Okay. So we can check that we have our color palette in just a moment. So we're going to start over here. You right click any of these little icons that have that little tab. You'll see that these are really more just like toolboxes to a whole category of different tools. The one we want to be using is the polar grid tool. And sometimes the polar grid tool will give you, it'll choose the number of radial and concentric dividers. So radial dividers are um, the vertical and horizontal lines. Concentric are the circle. Go back to the polar grid tool by double clicking that circle. You should probably just do 3 concentric dividers and 4 radial dividers. And making this, sometimes it will not have fills or line strokes. So I'm just going to delete that, and you can kind of see how it might look for you. So you can see that this gets distorted as well when you click and drag to make it. if you want that to just stay, it's like perfect ratio, just shift, click, and drag. While this is all selected, we can change the stroke color. So we have one, change the size a little bit, copy and paste. Now we have two. Perfect. Okay, so this polar grid is actually 3 circles and 4 lines. And so we want to actually break up this grouping. And we can do that by doing Shift Control G. So now we have our circles in a group and our lines in a group. We should actually do the same here. Control Shift G. And so we have, this is really 2 groups, like a group within a group. So we'll do the same, ungroup it. Now you can see it, we can select things by their individual members. And we have our 4 seasons. Each season leads into another. So we're going to want to make arrows. So we're going to explore 2 different ways to make kind of this arrow or cyclic diagram. One way with making shapes and fill, and the other with stroke. For the shapes and fill, we're going to want to jump to the rectangle tool, which is M. And we want to do the same thing with the shift key, click and drag, and you hit the shift key to keep the right ratio. And you can see we have a rectangle. And just going back to that, where it comes from, you can see when we right click on that rectangle tool that there's no option for triangle. So what we're doing right now is we're actually editing our rectangle to make our own triangle. So we can select our rectangle, press the minus button, which is the delete anchor point, and delete one of the corners of that square. And select V to go to our selection tool. And if I hover over the control points, you can kind of see this is a rotate cursor. And you can rotate at any degree you wish, but we want to keep things orthogonal, going 90 degrees. So we'll hit Shift and we'll rotate it. We want the triangle facing to the right. And what I'll do for us is we're really just worried about the outer 2 most rings right now, so I'll make them a little bit more bold. And then we should just select this line, kind of shrink it just by going towards the end and bringing it in. Same here. Perfect. But we're going to change this so it's actually, let's Control Z 4 times just to keep these lines. That'll be helpful for us. Okay, so we're going to zoom in a bit, change this size so that just those corners are showing on either side. You could put a lot of work into making this perfectly down the center, but we're not going to worry about that right now. And then we're just using these vertical and horizontal lines just to make sure that we are kind of overlapping a bit. So copy, paste, shift, and rotate. I'm going to do this 4 times. Again, it doesn't have to be Control V perfect. Remember to hit space and you can move around your artboard really easily by dragging and holding space. There we go. So we're just going to shrink these lines now that we're kind of use them for what they needed to be used for. Kind of get them out of the way. And finally, we're just gonna click and drag from our artboard to select them all, press Control 2 to lock them. So now we can see them, but we can't edit them. All right, so now that we kind of have the start of our arrows, we're gonna select everything in our leftmost diagram, hit Shift M, which is the shape builder tool, and you'll notice it shows hatching, where the shape is going to be built. So we click and drag, make sure everything is selected. You can see the red outline is where the shape outline is. We're just going to drag so we can see this arrow outlined in red. So build one, build the other. Oop, Control Z. There we go. Now, when I select this, I notice that there's this weird inner circle. We don't need that, so we're just going to delete that. Noticing another one, we'll delete it. There we go. Now, like if we moved it, you would see a black circle there. Now there isn't one. So we're going to add our colors. I forgot to add the other ones to our swatches. So how we're going to do that is go to, let's see, I'm going to go Window, down to Libraries. We want to add our colors to swatches. I might have repeats. I don't remember which ones are in there right now. Perfect. And in our fill, you can see them now. So there's, okay. So this will be summer. Actually, let's make this one spring. Summer. Fall. Oop. Fall. And winter. I always think black outlines make things look a little clunky. So we're going to select all of these, and you can see here's the stroke. You can click that color on the left side, and now there, make that white so it kind of feels a little bit more clean. And now we need words that kind of help label our seasons. So we're just going to use this on the right side, this outermost circle. Put that so it's kind of right at the tip of that arrow. Shift and drag. Make it close to being, there we go. Just kind of to scale, the right ratio, but inwards. So what we are going to do is type along the circle, but because we have 4 different labels, or like 4 different corners of the circle, we need to kind of create quadrants for our labels. So we're going to do the selection tool A, and select our one anchor point, delete it, select the other. So now you can see we just have this one singular quadrant. And what we're going to do is type on it. So here you can see in this type tool, in this little toolbox or toolbox window, there's all different options, and we're going to do the type on path tool. We're going to select this path, and we're going to type in our season. So on the right, now that we have our font or our text highlighted, we can change our color, use that white. I've been using, and here's our font. I've been using Bookmania for our fonts. Let's do regular, make it much bigger. Yeah, it's more like it. And I'm noticing that, and then we're gonna make this centered. So you can see now it's kind of in the middle. But I'm noticing it's really far on the edge. So what I'm gonna do is click these three buttons. So these all change the different kind of shapes of your fonts. Can like elongate them in different ways, slant them, rotate them in different ways. We're gonna adjust the baseline shift. I'm gonna go down. That just brings our text a little bit further down. Do that a little bit more. Perfect. Copy and paste that. Shift to rotate it. Shift and drag. So you notice when I select this fall, the blue lines kind of like are around the arrowhead kind of area. So I'm just getting it close. Doesn't have to be perfect. For your studio projects, you want it to be perfect, but maybe just for your ability to sleep at night, but it's okay. Um, Perfect. It's looking pretty good. Um, so what we'll do now is we're going to bring in our singular leaf. So we had locked that, or we had hit it. Here's our singular leaf. So the nice thing that Illustrator can do is it can change raster images into vector images. There's two ways to do that. We're going to use the image trace tool. There's two places to access that. There's this, if you're using the newer Illustrator, there's this like kind of floating toolbox. If you're using an older one, you have to go to Properties. And down here under Quick Actions is Image Trace. There's a bunch of options. Let's just start with silhouettes. So you can kind of see right away that this creates a silhouette of the shape. And a lot of folks will use one of these kind of predetermined settings and just stop there. And that kind of just results in sort of very identifiable workflows. And uh, so we're going to kind of go in and try to use change some settings so we can kind of make the image, fine tune it to more of our liking and make it a little bit more unique. So we're going to click on this Open the Image Trace panel. And there we go. We have our image selected. So for this, I think I'm going to go back to silhouettes, but first let's stop at the three colors, which is a very common preset. Here we can adjust our amount of colors that we kind of let our image contain. Kind of gives it a kind of like a national parks aesthetic. This is often used in like outdoorsy studios. This ignore color helps ignore the white. So you can have that kind of like clear background. I'm going to go down to the other commonly used one, the silhouette tool. And silhouette tool just gives you the silhouette of the image. The threshold is like how much of the image you get to see. This is based off of contrast. And it can help if you have a bright or dark image. Paths is sort of the fine detail of the image and how many paths are actually making up your shape. Corners are these corners sharp or soft. Noise is like more of a detail fine tuning. So you can see it doesn't affect much except for this logo. The noise gets disappeared if I put it all the way up, so I'll do that. Once you have the settings you like, really we just want an identifiable icon of the leaf. We'll go down to expand, and that makes this into a shape. We want to get rid of these excess pieces. So we're going to ungroup this, Control-Shift-G, select those pieces we don't like and delete them. And we left that center piece just so we know where the center of our circle is. Make that a little bit smaller. Perfect. Put this off to the side because we need to have a title, of course. Press T for type. I'm going to do fine maple seasonal color. I'm going to select them and I'm going to increase the space in between them. Make sure that's centered. Perfect. Now do type tool again. Acer circinatum. Press escape if you need to adjust the text box. We want to make this italic. We're landscape architects, we know our plans, so it's always good to show that. Okay. We're gonna unlock all the things on our spread. Control Alt 2. Go back and lock our hotkeys. Oops. And then delete this interior part. Oops. Something's in the way. There's many different ways to fix that. But one way is just to do right click, arrange, send to back. Do that again. Let's see what's happening here. Well, I can find that line here in the layers window and I can delete it there. So we select our leaf, press I, we can add, let's see, whatever color we want. You can see that it added the stroke, which made the stem of the leaf disappear. And this is feeling a little, there we go. Claustrophobic. If you want to get really fancy, you can select your shape, press G, select in your shape, and it creates a gradient. So this is a gradient bar. Left's this little bit kind of changes the ratio of white to black. And so does this middle piece, kind of changes where the middle ground of the mixing of the white and black is. If we hover to the right, we can kind of change the angle. So I'm going to change it so it's more going with the leaf. And then I'm going to double click that black color. going to, I noticed in the pictures, the fall color was on the outside and that green color was on the inside. So you can use the eyedropper, or we can just use our pre-saved palette colors and adjust that as needed. If we want to get really fancy, we can explore different types of gradient. So there's radial gradient, linear gradient, freeform gradient. We draw it in. I like this linear, it just is a little bit more realistic for the leaf. And then we can select this 3 dots. You can actually add more colors by kind of hovering underneath the bar. You can see that plus sign. So I'm going to add our spring color, kind of adjust where they occur. So I'm actually going to make that right on the outside. Then I'm going to add the winter right before the summer color. And press V to go to back to our selection tool. This isn't maybe the most aesthetically pleasing diagram, but it's neat and it shows all the different colors that the vine maple takes. So we're going to kind of make a similar diagram, but use line work. So what we're going to do is going to, sorry about that, select the outermost line or circle, zoom in, press minus, which is press the plus, which is the add anchor points. We're going to add anchor points on either side of the vertical and horizontal lines. So I'm going to zoom out, zoom back in, anchor, 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 anchor. I'm pressing Alt and just scrolling in and out to zoom in and zoom out really quick. Perfect. And then I'm going to press A, our selection tool, and I'm going to select, when you click on the outermost ring, you'll see we have now 3 control points. We're just going to delete that middlemost. There we go. Perfect. So now these are all individual like quadrants, arcs, and we will click Shift. That just allows us to kind of click and drag and just select all of them together. And let's adjust that stroke, make that a little bit wider. Click on this stroke, the word stroke. We can kind of change the caps. I always like to do round caps. You don't really have to worry about corners. We could make them dashed if we wanted to. We'll add arrowheads. So all different arrowheads for all different reasons or different uses. This one's nice. This changes the direction of the arrowheads. This changes if they end with the end of the line, or if the arrowhead starts at the end of the line. And then this 100% is really the ratio of arrowhead size to arrow. Let's see, I think that should be 100. Yeah. And then this profile changes just kind of like the width profile of your line work. You can flip it. I don't know if I'm going to use any of these, but you're welcome to. Maybe this one. Yeah, there we go. So now we can add our colors. Summer. winter, spring, and fall. We're going to hit Shift and select all of them again, copy, and then do Control, Shift V, which is paste in place. Go to our Type on Path tool and select our first arrow, winter, spring, summer, fall. And you'll notice they're all kind of weird, so we're going to adjust that right now. So we're going to press A for our selection tool. You'll notice at the beginning of kind of the path that we can type on is actually way in the middle of the arc. So we're going to select that word again and then adjust that. So winter's in the middle. Do the same here and here. And then we're going to select all of these. Adjust the spacing that we had. And honestly, I think this should be actually on the outside of the line a little bit. So I'm going to actually get a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to change that font to regular. And then copy, paste. Bring that in the middle. Maybe this needs to be bigger. First, we can delete, now that we have kind of like the middle, oh, this isn't very middle, is it? The middle, we can delete these black lines. We can delete all of them pretty easily by selecting one, doing select, same, stroke color. You can see there's all different ways we can kind of organize our artboard or the objects on our artboard to select them. We're going to do stroke color, delete. You can see mine, this is like looking a little bare. There might be different ways to adjust it. First, I'm gonna go to my layers just because there's a lot of them. In our layers, if we want to just like select the thing on our artboard, we can just select this circle here, shift click. Just gonna increase it a bit. And maybe I'll make that middle bigger so it just feels a little bit more full. Sweet. There we go. So there's our two kind of seasonal charts, seasonal color charts for our selected plant. We're going to take away and make sure we name that AI cheat sheet. And then just want to show you one other quick tool. So none of us were probably lucky enough to find an image of our kind of like our tree in all the different colors. But we can kind of now retro make a palette. We can do that. We can just export our images. We can just export them together because it's just an example. Color example. Perfect. Go to Google, go to Adobe Color. So I showed a lot of you this. I recommend playing around with it. allows you to make and create color palettes based off of colors, photos, or images. So we're going to go to Extract Theme, select File, go to our exported example, and then we can just go in and select our colors from our image. Let's see, there's an extra. And make our own color theme. So here's all our colors from our image. Name this Pine Maple Test. Click Save. So now that we have this saved, we should be able to go straight back to Illustrator, open up our libraries, and in my themes, which is where I saved it, down here you can see our Vine Maple Test. We say add theme to our swatches. When we are going to make a shape, we'll see our made color palette here. So that's how you can kind of quickly create color palettes that can be found on any Adobe software. It can be very helpful. Sweet. So that's it for today. So each diagram should be exported individually and brought into a different page on InDesign, and then also dropped on the Miro board.